Fred Higgs. I am the Vice Provost of Academic Affairs. I'm also a professor of mechanical engineering with a joint appointment in bioengineering, and of course, I'm the faculty director for the Rice Center for Engineering Leadership, which we affectionately call RCEL. So several years ago, RCEL redefined its commitments to educating tomorrow's ethical leaders in technology and engineering at the undergraduate and graduate level. A part of that was recognizing that the world, and more particularly our nation, has moved into a new era of productivity, the fourth industrial revolution. In this emerging world, data, AI, minds, and machines are fusing together and impacting every aspect of our lives at an accelerating pace. Technology is a driving force behind human progress and global innovation. Consequently, every company must become a technology company or become extinct. Here at RCEL, we thought about this world that we've entered, and what we believe is going to happen is that companies will increasingly begin to produce products and services that will generate much data. That companies will need to deploy small teams of engineering managers to oversee the emerging products that happen as people begin to drown in data. These engineering managers will need to be responsible, data-blooded, AI knowledgeable, trained in both project and product management, and technically strong. To help build this emerging world, RCEL created the master's degree in engineering management and leadership, MEML, also known as MEMO degree, to help keep companies from drowning in opportunity from all of this data. We take engineers with college degrees in mechanical engineering, electrical and computer engineering, chemical, civil, biomedical, environmental, and materials engineering, or the computational sciences and math, and make them data-blooded, AI-minded decision makers and ethical engineering managers who will become entrepreneurs or remain entrepreneurs in big innovative companies like HP. I now invite Rice's new Vice President of Innovation, Dr. Paul Cherukuri, who will formally introduce our special guest and our student moderator. Paul.
Thank you all. Thank you for the introduction, Fred. Thank you for your continued excellent leadership of RCEL and all the other things you do for Rice. It's a great pleasure for me to be here, and I want to first apologize for wearing a tie. I am one of you. I may not be dressed like that, but I have to diffuse into other organizations tonight that I have to look like this. So my apologies for that. But let me start by saying welcome. Thank you for all of you being here today. It's a great pleasure and honor for me to stand here in front of you to introduce this visionary leader who's at the forefront of steering one of the world's foremost technology companies towards new horizons. I think you're going to hear a lot about that today, because I don't want to take up too much time introducing our speaker, because I think you want to hear from him. He is a driving force in the realm of enterprise technology, to be sure, leading with resilience, foresight, and unwavering commitment to shaping the future of IT. As Chief Executive Officer of Hewlett Packard Enterprise, Antonio Neri has played a pivotal role in navigating this complex and ever-evolving landscape of digital transformation. In addition to that, there's been 2 recent corporate rankings. I think we all love rankings, especially when they're good, of which he is justly proud of, I think, which is that number 19 in Fortune's Best Companies to Work For in 2022, and just announced last week, number 1 among America's most just companies, which rates the largest corporations on issues that matter the most. We have a great privilege from hearing from him, and if you attended other previous RCEL events, you also know that one of the hallmarks of this wonderful program is our ability and our opportunity to entrust to our RCEL students much of what we do. Today is no exception to that. The moderator of our Fireside Chat is Chris Ordonez, a graduate student in RCEL's Master of Engineering Leadership Program, Management Leadership, MEML. In common with our guests, Chris has his start in maritime technology, including marine robotics, hydrographic mapping, oceanography, offshore construction. And also, like our guest, has been all over the world, apparently. And I didn't know this till I read your bio that you worked in Trinidad. I've lived in Trinidad for 5 years. I know Trinidad well. He just said roti. And anybody who knows Trinidad just got hungry. So that's good. And other countries as well. But before coming to Rice, he earned his bachelor's in ocean engineering from Texas A&M and a master's in ocean physics from Oregon State. So please welcome our moderator, Chris, as well as our distinguished speaker, Antonio Neri.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, and thank you, Paul, and thank you, Fred, for the kind words. It's a pleasure and honor to be here with you today. Hopefully we're going to have some fun on this with this chat.
Oh, we will. We will. And we'll start with your incredible journey through HP and HPE. Starting in 1995, you were a customer service engineer. And over the time, you ascended to CEO and president in 2018. In fact, it was just about your 6-year anniversary of that. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Can you walk us through your journey from entry-level engineer through the ranks of the leadership pipeline to CEO, to leading a Fortune 500 company?
Yeah, I think normally when they ask me this question, I want to reflect also on my personal life, because I think my professional career is a reflection of my personal life, and I never have any challenges or any concern sharing that. So I was born in Argentina, and my parents are both Sicilians. They immigrated in 1958. They were looking for a better world. Unfortunately, that's not the case today, I will say. But I grew up, in an Italian family in Argentina. And I was, I had the honor to live both in Argentina and Italy. But I consider myself Argentinian for certain things, especially for soccer, and Italian for many other things. But it just happened that when I was there my second time, I actually decided to join a middle school inside a military base where I became an apprentice. And my passion was electronics, right? So the only way I can get access to that was to go through one of these schools, not as a military person, but as a civilian. And so I was able to learn electronics. I was maintaining and repairing radars and then sonars on the ships. Fortunately, at almost 16 years old, I was caught in a war, which was the Falkland War. And from there, I continued. But I guess I had this vision, Chris, that, Argentina was not going to get where I needed to get in 1989, and I decided to leave the country. So my vision was right, I guess, because unfortunately, 40 years later, it was still the same way. So went to Italy and, worked for a company, and then I met a girl. And that was the reason why I went to Holland. And this is where I started working for HP. And the story there is very simple. They were looking at the time, 95, it was the era of the PC client server at the time, with operating systems nobody remembers today, which is basically Novell, Go Unix, Bay and Vines, stuff that people here in the room say, what are you talking about? But they were looking for also the qualification, you need to speak Italian and Spanish. So I had it all. It's perfect. The problem is, you have to speak English. And I didn't. At least I didn't do it well, and I still don't do it that well. But that said, the first story of leadership, the reason why I'm telling this story is that the reason why I'm at HP today is because the hiring manager, which was a British Jamaican person, saw my qualifications and this is exactly what we're looking for. It's hard to find his profile in Amsterdam, of all the places. And we were going to teach him English. And if it was not for him, I would not be here today. So the first lesson, right? You always have to give people chances and believe that those people have the will to learn and grow. And sometimes, those people will become leaders of the company. And that's exactly happened with me. 23 years later, I became the president CEO of HP. And along that 23 years, I had the opportunity to work with some amazing leaders across multiple businesses, people who invented franchises that you may be familiar with, HP LaserJets, obviously, ProLiant, which is one of the most famous servers that was created, as well as services businesses and the like. And one of my managers said, "Listen, I think you are a diamond in the rough. With a little polishing, you can go far." People took interest in me along the way, and that's an important lesson, right? You have to take interest in people, because as a CEO or any leader, you got to plan succession. We in our company, we encourage people to express their opinions, whatever opinions they have. That's why we are a global company of 62,000 employees. And one of the things that we really value is inclusion and diversity. And so I understand what they're saying, but ultimately is their voice, and they have the right to express their voice. Nothing more than that. Obviously, we don't agree with some of the things they may be saying, but obviously it's a difficult situation. We as a company, we do business in Israel because we have a lot of innovation there. And my responsibility is to protect our employees in Israel. That's the only thing we are doing, nothing more than that. We don't get involved in any political actions or anything related to that. But that said, obviously we are living in very difficult times, and it's important that people express their opinions. I have no concerns with that.
Thank you, Mr. Neri. Speaking of international, you have a lot of international experience personally where you've lived. You told us about your story, personal and professional. How are you leveraging that international perspective in your leadership, both professionally and personally as you guide the company?
I think it's a strength, because when you understand the cultural differences, you also are able to understand the context by which you do business in those communities, right? And so for me, has been a strength. Moved to the United States 25 years ago, and obviously I have to learn, what's happening here, the cultural differences, the challenges we live every day, social injustice, opinions about, abortion and other things, right? That all impacting communities, right? But the fact of the matter is that I come from a background where the diversity of opinion, the ability to share the voice. In fact, we tell our employees, make your voice heard at the booth, right? That's what you need to do, is you assume a right to do so. So with that in mind, for me, is celebrate the cultural differences is number one. This is one of the core values of our culture itself, is focus on that inclusion and diversity, make sure that people progress, they don't feel that they are restrained in sharing their opinions, and then ultimately give back to the community. So one of the things we're really proud about our culture is our purpose, to advance the way people live and work. And the way we do that is by focusing on core four beliefs. Number one is accelerate what comes next for the communities, for business, for our employees. Number two is being bold. This world belongs to people who can make assertive, bold decisions. Those are going to be the ones that are going to go further. They're going to go further and faster. Number three is the power of yes, we can, is the we before the I. And last but not least is being a force for good, right? And so we as a company, obviously we contribute a lot to Red Cross and other agencies around the globe, but we do a lot of charity. We give back to the community. We focus on sustainability, and there are some amazing stories about our company, things like global pandemic and the like. And so from my vantage, that has been a strength of the company. And that drove our engagement scores inside the company 20 points higher in the last 4 years. So our employees, they feel recognized to those values and beliefs, and therefore they want to come, not just because of the compensation or because of the job, also because of the culture.
That's, you keep, this is a technology forum, but we keep coming back to people. Whether it's your boss who found your aptitude and your skills and taught you English and in the internationally, and you bring it back to culture. I would like to stay on culture a little bit, and you've given us some key points here. And we just learned with Just, your number one in corporate responsibility in America. How does that implementing that culture? How does that look in the company, and how does that benefit driving innovation? How does it relate to the mission of HPE?
I think culture is everybody's job. It can't be just the CEO or a bunch of executives coming with these ideas and hopefully it's going to stick, right? So we actually engage all our employees, the resource groups, that we have many resource groups, whether it's the Asian group, whether it's the Hispanic group, the Latino group, the African American group, the Black group. And so we ask them to be part of shaping that culture every day. And we empower them to take actions and decisions on our behalf. And ultimately, when you do that at that scale, if everybody does, it then becomes self-fulfilling. I do believe cultures have to evolve and celebrate the differences. That's obviously an opinion, again, as we go early on. But that said, you have to ingrain in the leadership, attributes that run the company. And so, you have myself, you have an executive council, call it 12, 15 people, and then underneath that you have 4,000 managers. And all have to be in sync. But ultimately, they're as good as the people they have around. And that's why when I became CEO, I had 3 key priorities for myself. Number 1 was the culture. Number 2 is our customers and partners. And number 3 is our innovation. And so those were the 3 key principles I gathered myself. On the culture side, obviously at the core is our employees. On the customer and partners, making sure everything we do is customer-centric. And the partner ecosystem is very large for us because we have more than 100,000 partners we do business every day. And then number 3, obviously, is our innovation. We, as a company, are as good as the innovation that people we have in front of customers. And that's where I guide myself. And that's how we measure our leadership effectiveness.
Thank you. Your culture is embodied through the individuals, as it should be. So with those individuals empowered by your culture, what are some of the traits and skills that HPE is looking for when you're identifying future engineering leaders?
Yeah. Well, obviously, we are training our managers all the time. I think I was mentioning to you briefly when we joined here. 6 years ago, I never imagined as a CEO you would have to deal with all those equations you have to deal with. Think about it. Geopolitical tension, a global pandemic, social injustice, supply chain disruption, and I can go on and on. So as a leader, I have to evolve, learn new things, and also, be comfortable to take a stance on niches that employees care about, right? And you don't have to take a stance for everything, but you do need to take stance in order to make that clear. And so, our managers have to do that as well, because the first line of connection for employees is with the management. And so you've got to continue to develop that. So what I'm looking at is, first of all, lead with empathy. Is important. We are all human beings. We all have problems at home, at work, and so making sure that they understand how to connect with people. Second thing, this is listening. One of the things that I became, I think, more acute and continue to learn is practicing my listening skills. Sometimes we try to jump to answers. And what I do most of the time is listen first. And listen very carefully what people are saying, how clearly about things. The third piece is being very crystal clear about what I want you actually feel on that individual. And provide ongoing and exclusive feedback. I'm not a mind leader, as I said. If we're going to have the conversation with you, I don't know what was going on to his head. But at the same time, all that piece of feedback and the employee needs to own both career. That's the other piece is it. So it was 2 ways to street. In fact, this year we implemented a new performance management system, which actually is 2 ways feedback. Think about it. Normally, there's a feedback about the employee, and the manager gives a performance evaluation. This year is also their employees and the feedback about the managers that we consider in that performance evaluation. And so we create trust in the system, then everything is much easier. because it's very open, transparent, based on trust. And then ultimately, you have to take in developing this people for the future, right? There is different ways to go about it. But ultimately, establish clear goals. The next 2 years, I'm going to be in the job. This is what I'm going to accomplish. Here are the strengths I need to leverage, and here are the weaknesses of opportunity I need to work on for me to take the next job. And if you do that over and over and over and over, you create a self-fulfilling or self-sustaining culture. Because when I lead this company, my goal is that someone inside the company is going to become CC. That's the introduction.
Thank you for that. And one of the words that you mentioned it has come up is evolve, evolving organizationally and as individuals. So following on the traits of leaderships, we have a lot of would-be aspiring engineering leaders here in the RSL program here in the audience. What specific advice would you give for people to own your career, to own their career? How can they develop these skills that you're talking about in themselves?
You have to own it yourself. I mean, listen, the company, whatever company you're going to work for, I hope you can work for HPE. Is going to give you all sorts of opportunities, all sorts of training, all sorts of scenarios for you to learn. But ultimately, you have to own it. So let me give an example. When I joined HPE, obviously, I knew the technical side, but I had to continue to learn new things. So my downtime was doing scenario testing, access in the lab, and never was waiting for things. So wanted to learn more and continue to grow. But then I was observing and learning from others, right? But you need to build a network around you. And that's important because, you may need help or you can provide help to others. And that's the thing that will make you more attractive to people to look for you, because you are also bridging, you're helping others, and you are part of the solution, whatever problem you're trying to solve. In fact, in my 29 years career at HPE and HPE, I never applied for a job. I was always asked, Antonio, we would like you to do this job. Please do this job. And what it was, and by the way, it was not all the time up. In fact, there were a couple of instances I was going sideways. And the reason it was sideways is because I wanted to learn. And so, for example, I was working in 2000, I think it was 3. I was working for the printing division. Printing division, one of the most successful franchises, HP LaserJets, was the most profitable business inside the company. They asked me Antonio, can you come and fix the services business in the PC business? That was after the Compaq merger. The HPE business, PC business was number 2 after Dell. We took over Dell 3 years later. We fixed it. That gave me an opportunity to go and take a different job. But that's the key. You have to want it. You establish short-term goals, not 10 years goals. In fact, I never established for myself I want to be the CEO of the company. That was not what I was aspiring. I wanted to be a general manager in one of the business units. And that happened, whatever it was, 2010. So think about it, 15 years later, right? But then things happen, be in the right place, the right time, things evolve, but I have to learn the other skills. And if you have the right support system around you, that will happen. But you got to own it yourself.
You got to want it. Thank you for that. So to switch gears entirely, we've talked a lot about people. We talked a lot about evolving. But one of the technologies that's quickly evolving is AI. It's been a clear focus I know for HPE and also for all industries. Can you talk to us a little about HPE and AI? And then I also want to look a little ahead in the future, but.
So obviously AI is going to be, in my mind, the most disruptive technology in our lifetime. It's going to be bigger than what the mobile phone was or cloud was in the last decade, right? So it's going to transform our communities, our industries, our society as a whole. It goes with good things and bad things, right? Obviously, right? So there is a lot of opportunity to create a lot of value, to improve the lives of people. In fact, one of the things we as a company really focus on AI is that purpose, or that's the way people even work. Let me give you examples. We work with entities like in Europe called DZ&E. We apply what we call a swarm learning technique on AI so that we can share insights, not data. And in this case, this entity is looking for finding the cure for Alzheimer and dementia. And so what they have a program in Germany that every year citizens voluntarily have signed to take a scan of their brain, and then we, over time, help the researchers 3D model the entire neurons of the brain. And by 2026, we're going to get there. Why that's important? It's important because then we apply the AI techniques to really pinpoint what the proteins are that are causing this type of, diseases. But the same is with climate. I mean, the biggest climate forecasting systems run on our systems, which are high-performance computing systems, because those are simulation and modeling techniques. And then now we are adding things like vector database or generative AI to it, so we can accelerate the learning. In fact, a lot of the forecasts can be done on prediction, not just by looking on the radar imagery. And so we are doing all those things, right, in ways, obviously, manufacturers, many examples of it. But when I think about AI, to me, it's all about business productivity, right? And when you think about enterprise. And you need now massive amount of computational power. And HPE is the largest supercomputer vendor on the planet. In fact, under my leadership, it will go my legacy, whatever, in a number of years, people are going to bring the books, that we actually deployed the first exascale supercomputer, which is 18 to the 10, right? So think about that. That system today can do a billion, meaning a quintillion operations per second. And when you have that level of computational power, you can start imagining what problems it can go solve, right? And so, but obviously, as I think about the next generation comes next, and is about the business productivity. We have some challenges, obviously, ethical use of AI, the sustainability piece. These systems consume an enormous amount of energy. And it's not different than you're thinking when you think about Bitcoin farming, right? This is on steroids on top of that. And so our challenge as an engineering company is how we continue to address the computational curve need with the data explosion, with a curve that goes down in cost and energy consumption, right? So that's a very interesting and stimulating engineering challenge. And I was telling you pretty early on that we are doing some amazing things in our labs where we're immersing the entire system in liquid cooling. Think about water. And you can see through the glass all the electronics turning on, which people say, water and electronics don't go together. Actually, they do. And all these supercomputers are actually powered and cooled with liquid. And then, as people say, we're going to learn a lot by going into space because we can make Earth better. And so we are now on the third iteration of our supercomputer in the International Space Station. In fact, 2 weeks ago, we launched what we call Spaceborne number 2. That's in itself is an engineering challenge because you have to, survive all the vibration as the rocket goes up. And then when you get there, you are into space, right? And gravity plays a big role. And this supercomputer had to be completely autonomous because the astronauts, they don't know anything about supercomputers. They know about the research, but they don't know anything about supercomputers. So how we make these systems autonomous? And that's the next precursor, what we're doing with NASA on back to the moon and then eventually to Mars. And one of the things we're working with them is that as we establish the next colony on the moon, then you need logistics. And one of the things you were telling me about your ocean case is that without connectivity, it sucks. You can't do anything. So if you're on the moon and you have no connectivity, what are you going to do, right? So the first thing we need to solve is the connectivity on the moon, right? And obviously all the supplies for people to survive. So we're going to work with that, and so we're working with amazing companies like a rover, that actually is a transportation, that basically this rover will land is huge, and it's going to be powered by a system so that we can move supplies from one side of the moon to the other side of the moon and connected what we call pretty much a cloud radio access network on the moon. So these are things, if you think about it with AI at the core, because everything needs to be AI driven in order to make it intelligent and autonomous. And that's what excites me. You know, I spend all the time with our teams and thinking about how we solve those issues.
Thank you. And it's interesting how your background in ocean technology, where you started in ocean technology, is a lot of remote work. You need an autonomous thing, is now applicable to space.
I think the experiences of the past makes you stronger, you know, because then opens your brain to think about different issues. They're not 100% applicable, but at least the use case and the challenge may become helpful as you think about these challenges going forward.
As you evolve. And so we have a lot of young engineers here, and you mentioned a lot of things, not only about AI and how it works, but also the behind the curtain. There's a lot of water. There's sustainability issues. There's ethics issues, data, increasing energy use. And so from that broader perspective with AI and the transformations, how can engineers here who are going to be going into the workforce, how can they be prepared to adapt for these transformations that you see coming?
Yeah, I was talking to another college a while back, and it's fascinating, these dual degrees or these mixed degrees, hybrid degrees, whatever they call it these days. You know, you go and say, I'm going to be this engineer. And then they realize, that's good, but man, you know, if this is the technology of the future, I need to make sure I learn that before I get out of here. And so, and this is the reskilling part of this, it becomes essential. Let me tell you something. Good news, I hope you're close to get this done. The bad news, you're never done. And that's my way of thinking. The day I stop learning, I'm done. I better leave, do something else, or nothing, which would be a good thing. But you can't stop. You know, you got to have that sense of curiosity high. You got to continue to learn. You got to stay up to speed, you know, and up to date. And I say it with our engineers, right? So, I mean, they themselves, right? You know, well, I was a programmer in COBOL. Who cares about COBOL today? Although they are in high demand because many of the systems in the United States government are COBOL-based. Maybe that's what I do when I'm tired. Go back and go do that. So, yeah, you got to keep learning. You know, and this is why, you know, we have a say inside the company that we have to perform while we need to transform. You got to perform, do your job best, and you keep transforming yourself all the time. Listen, I've never seen what we've seen today. The level of innovation and rapid change we see is astronomical. We used to take 10 years, now it takes 1 year, sometimes a month. Right? Now, the case of going to petaflops to exaflop, it took us 14 years. 14 years in the making. And all started with a simple piece of paper on a napkin concept, right? But it took us 14 years to bake the briar. The next one is going to take less than 5. And then quantum computing will come along as well.
Indeed. Thank you. And as one of our professors here likes to say, leadership is leading. To lead is to learn. And you really echo that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like I said, you know, you have to learn all the time. All the time. Last night, you know, I was with my son. My son is in the 3rd year of business administration, and unfortunately, he went through the period of time that, you know, COVID, so he wasted junior year and senior year. There was not much to do. So his base for math, pretty low, I would say, pretty low. And I was telling my chief of staff here, you know, what did you do last night? Well, I was just an hour and a half on economics and, you know, doing all the math on economics. That was fun. And, but he understood the concept. Once he understood, he was like, his face changed, he was happy and moved on. So I keep learning with him too.
Well, good. And we'll take some time now for some questions from the audience, if that works for you. Oh, great. And then Claudia will be around with the small mic.
Hi, my name is Darren. I graduated from ICE actually in alumni, and I was wondering, what has been the favorite part of your job over the past 20 plus years at HP, and what are you most excited or think you'll find most meaningful coming up in the future?
The people. Number one is the people. I mean, working with people excites me every day. That's how I learn, honestly, by working with people. And nothing beats the sense of excitement when you do something amazing and you're able to represent that amazement in front of, last year was 10 million people that were watching our innovation. So for me, representing them is an honor. Like representing Hewlett and Packard, right? So if you think about it, HP and HPE has been in the market for 85 years or so. And Bill Hewlett and Dave Packard did something amazing. They are the founder of Silicon Valley. But the reality, if you're the CEO of the company has Hewlett and Packard, is a privilege. It's only 10 people that have done it. In fact, only 5 within the company. I'm one of the 5. And so I take that with pride and responsibility. So that's an incredible excitement every day. But it's really working with people. What excites me about the future is a lot of things, right? So, but as always, as a CEO, you're representing also shareholders. And ultimately, you have to think about when I invest my time and energy to create value for shareholders. By the way, I'm a shareholder myself, right? And so, but I think, our strategy, which is informed by the mega trends we see in the market, right? So we believe the enterprise of the future will be edge-centric, meaning think about this space, right? So look how many cameras you have, 1, 2, 3, 4. All these devices, all the PCs you have. I'm sure there will be a lot of tweets from early on. The amount of data that we're creating, right, is insane, right? That's one. And so for me, that's what the value is how we harvest the value of the data. And that's why the edge, as we call it, is the next frontier. Second piece is cloud-enabled. Cloud, for me, is an operating model, is an experience, is not the destination of sorts where you put your data in new workloads and hopefully everything works. And last but not least is data-driven, which is the discussion we're having here, which is all about using now these amazing technologies to solve some of these biggest challenges we have to make the world better, but also to advance the business. We bring all this together under one concrete platform, which we call it HPE GreenLake. And that platform is where we unified all these experiences, and we give customers the choice and the flexibility to consume it the way they want it. So for me, obviously AI is a big one, but it's also the connectivity. And I just announced a month or so ago, we are doing a large acquisition. Our focus will be to make that connectivity simple to deploy and manage with AI in mind going forward.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I think he was there, and then there is one up there.
So HP is a gargantuan company. That's not just they're spread out in what they do, but also geographically they're also very spread out. So you essentially rose from the periphery to the top. And we got interrupted while you were describing your hiring. I wondered if you had something more to describe about your success beyond just laterally moving and be the smart and the grower.
Yeah, I think part of the thing is the strategy itself. You have to continue to bring talent from outside, right? And you have to bring new ideas, new perspectives, obviously different type of talent, right? And then mix it with a great experience that we have inside the company. And, that's why acquisitions for me, when I do acquisitions, I focus on 3 things. Number 1, what type of talent they have. Number 2, obviously the intellectual property. And number 3, can I integrate them and scale it to my significant, very large go-to-market that I have inside the company? And then that talent, right, is the key. Because if I cannot integrate that talent, I will not do it. It's just waste for our shareholders. And so that's why I spend a lot of time understanding the talent aspect of any acquisition. Every year we hire at least 6,000 people inside the company, 6,000 people. And obviously that profile has been changing over the years, right? We were telling Chris, it's hard to find firmware engineers. You have a lot of software engineers, but not firmware engineers. Totally different. obviously we have a lot of mechanical engineers. When you look at these supercomputers, I was telling Fred and showing the picture, there is a lot of mechanical stuff that goes there. To liquid cool the systems, you have to be a genius almost in pumps and chemistry and all of that. It's just a marvel of engineering. So you have a mix of many different areas. And when you bring that talent together, and you give them a mission, that's the one thing I learned. You got to give them a clear mission and then empower them. And all the things you need to do is also reward failure, as long as you do it fast, right? Fail fast and improve is one of the things we say. Because if you don't fail, it means you're not trying hard enough, right? And failure will teach you how to do things better. So you have to have that ability to really think through and be comfortable with, right? Courage over comfort. That's another of the things we say inside the company. Personally, I took a lot of risk in my life all the time. Personally, I had the experience I had to sleep 2 nights in airports because my girlfriend dumped me, and I was waiting for the ticket to get back home. I had to do that, but at the same time, if you don't take risk, you never advance. So.
Hi, my name is Enrique Besilla. I'm a sophomore here at Rice University studying physics and electrical engineering. So my question is, what are some of the skills that you had to learn to go from a technical role to a more managerial one?
Well, first of all, the people side, right? We talk about leadership. And the other one, obviously, is basically strategy. In a CEO role, they had 2 big transitions to do, right? One is from being an engineer or a operator of sorts to be more a strategist. That's a big shift. Although I still use my engineering and operating skills in specific areas where I feel that sometimes we go on and on forever, and then my ability to see through it and go, we just had this call. I now want to go for a year. And, I just listen, and then at the end I say, I think there are the 5 things we need to do, and distill it in a way that are actionable, right? But definitely the strategy, the people management side. One thing is to manage 15 people, to manage 62,000 people. The analogy I make is that when you lead 62,000 people, you're like the mayor of the town. There is crime, there is fraud, there is drama, there is all sorts of things you have to deal with it. How you engage and how you manage those, it makes a big difference. And then the financial side of the house. The one thing I hate the most, obviously, is dealing with the street, and telling stories about things because they have a unique way to see performance. But my point, those are one of the things I have to learn and be comfortable. And then realize that when you are a CEO, everything eventually stops with you. It's the most lonely job you can have because everybody looks at you and says, okay, what he's going to say, what he's going to do, what he's going to decide, right? So realize at some point you're going to be alone. Yes, you have all these people around you, fantastic people, they're going to give you input, but at some point you have to make the decision. And that's something you have to be comfortable with.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hello, Mr. Neri. Hi. Followed up great insights. My name is Juan. I'm also from Argentina.
Felicitaciones. ¿De dónde?
De Buenos Aires.
Buenos Aires. Okay, Boca River.
And Belleza Field.
Okay, wow.
So even more Argentina.
So he asks which team he was spawned from. And normally it's one of the 2, which is Boca Juniors or River Plate. He says Belleza Field.
Okay, we have...
Huh?
Are you Vigo?
No. Okay, let's not deviate.
I don't know exactly that. So you mentioned how customer-centric products are the center of our focus for HP, and we are in many ways just scratching the surface on seeing how AI can benefit companies, right? And I guess that it must be very challenging for HP standing in just in the middle of it's a huge move of innovation and customers, in a way, understanding how they can use AI. And so what are the main challenges when building products that have to be customer-centric, but at the same time have customers that are just learning how to use AI?
I mean, I try to spend at least 50% of my time talking to customers and our partners, because my predecessor said something super, super important, which is the truth is in the cold face, which is when you talk to customers, you get a good sense, right? What they're going through, what problems they're trying to solve, and ultimately what is going to be your relevance. So for me, the only way you create value long-term is being relevant in the market. When customers say, I have this problem, who I call? HPE, right? Because they have the best people and the best technology, and they're going to work with me to try to solve that problem. So be able to read the market. You can buy, market reports and all sorts of studies from IDC, Gartner, Bain, whatever. And normally I call them the predictors of the past, because by the time they come to you, it's a little bit old, right? But you need that data, right? You need that data. And then I tend to follow more what the customers are doing. So this is why we have processes inside the company. We call it the board of advisors. We bring, 25, 30 customers on a regular basis. We do envision sessions. We tell them about our strategy. We ask their input, what problems we can solve for you in this strategy, where we should invest our dollars. Are you willing to pay for that, which is important? And that's an evolving process, right? And, you cannot be static in that process. You have to be constantly, you have to have agility and a dynamic approach to it, as long as you lay the North Star for the next 3 to 5 years. And listen, when I said in 2018 that the enterprise of the future will be edge-centric, cloud-enabled, and data-driven, I invested $4 billion at the edge through the connectivity layer. It paid off because we had $2 billion of revenue in less than 4 years. The year after, I said we're going to offer everything as a service. We saw through the evolution of how customers buy technology, it was shifted more from a CapEx model, which you buy and depreciate over a number of years, to more a pay-as-you-go. And part of that was because people were leveraging the public cloud. But what if I can give you the same experience across your entire IT estate? We said that in 2019, and I guess luck was on my side, and global pandemic hit. What happens? Everybody went to preservation mode. And the most important thing you need to preserve when a crisis like that is what? Cash. Nobody wants to spend cash, right? So that's why we saw massive growth in our platform. And today we are, 3 years later, 29,000 customers. We have 4 million devices that manage 1 billion of connected devices to those systems and access points and other things. And our total contract value went from hundreds of millions of dollars to $13 billion, right? That we're going to see the benefit over the next few years. And then obviously now is the AI piece. But the question is how you make money. And that's the dilemma that people are struggling right now. And honestly, from an enterprise pure perspective, it's not like people are deploying, jumping into it. They're being very careful because, they're worried about data, leak, IP, intellectual property leakage, obviously compliance. If you're in financial services, you're in healthcare, you have all these issues you have to deal with it. And then also, what happened from a cybersecurity perspective. So you have all these issues. What we see today, a lot of action in AI is people who build the models, like OpenAI, ChatGPT, Google Bard, Anthropic, and so forth. But we're trying to work with companies that they have the ability to be successful with those models, and we make some investment in them. And at the same time, we use them as a way to innovate in this space where we have the right to play and win, and at the same time make money. You have to make money at some point. So that's the guiding, framework.
Hi. Hi. And Zion. I had 2 questions really, and one of them I want to get your opinion. So first of all, HP is basically it's a computing company, right? You make computers. So what would you say, or what do you think is the next phase for computing? About 20 years ago, computers were this big, and now they're this small. So what would you say is the next phase where our computers go up? And then the Apple Vision Pro,
question: does HP have like anything like that? Do you have any? Are you planning any sort of like competition to that? And do you see that as like something to be do I say look forward to? Do you see it as the next phase, basically?
So first of all, because we split the company, Hewlett Packard, into two, 8 years ago now. There is HP Inc., which is the blue logo as you know it, HP. They are the consumer company mainly, which is basically PCs and printers. We are Hewlett Packard Enterprise, which is more the business company. So we don't do any consumer products, okay? So that's one. We use and we partners with company like that, with like Apple, but really more in the robotic space. In fact, we did a few things that basically we can, through the AR piece, we can actually use for certain use cases, for example, in the manufacturing space or in the services space, to be able to do repair or maintenance by guiding through AI, through the AR piece, these engineers without having all the tools that they need, normally manuals and whatever. But put that aside, on the computing side, I think obviously quantum is going to be the next big thing, but I don't think quantum will be a mainstream, technology. It's too expensive. It's going to take probably another decade from a manufacturing perspective to really deliver the yields that will make this a scale compute, right, as we know it. However, we have some other interesting technologies in the neurological space, but also where we, HP, innovate, probably is going to be in two key areas. Number one is get rid of all the copper and gold we have in the systems. And this is why we are moving to what we call more silicon photonics. That's going to give a huge boost in performance. Think about it, 1,000 times with 100 times less cost. You're not moving, electrons anymore. You're going to move light. And in that will make the system not only way more sustainable, but smaller and more efficient. So that's number one. The second is what I call memory-driven computing. If you think about your phone for a moment, it's still the same old architecture. You have a CPU, you have memory, you have storage. And so what you normally do, you take the data from storage, put it in memory, then you process, put it back, and so forth. That little round trip is very inefficient. Obviously has a lot of minerals, and it consumes a lot of energy. Sometimes it gets hot in your pocket, right? Whatever you do it. And so in the future, what we are already have is the ability to collapse what we call the memory and the storage into one pool of memory that's non-volatile and flip the architecture, where basically they become the cores or the center of the architecture, and then we bring the right compute resource to the data. So instead of moving data, we bring the compute to the data, and we can scale it much higher. And because use almost no energy, and because it's basically a state, then we can process data faster, less energy, and also protect from a cyber perspective because everything in the system, the collapsed system, is encrypted. So there is some fascinating things we're working on, but it all take time, and you're not going to see all at once. We're going to see technologies that are becoming mature, and we build it in the current systems, and eventually over time, they morph into these new systems. And then supercomputing is going to be here forever, in my mind. In fact, today we have a supercomputer connected to a quantum computer. In many ways, the quantum computer is an accelerator to the supercomputer, but it's not one replacing the other one. Now, it comes with other challenges because a supercomputer can put a standard data center with liquid cool, but the quantum computer needs to be in a vacuum room. So that poses all sorts of different challenges. But those are the things we are thinking. Hi. My name
is Valentina. I'm also from Argentina.
¿Dónde? Yes. From where?
From Buenos Aires.
Buenos Aires.
I'm from Boca.
Bien. Yeah. Good.
Yes, so you talked about culture and innovation as well. So I was wondering, since HP was founded in 2015, it has adopted external innovation through different acquisitions and partnerships like Aruba, Juniper Networks. So I was wondering, you as a CEO, how do you think that this mixture of companies has affected the culture and the sense of belonging worldwide?
For the good, I think. I said you cannot innovate everything. So I think about innovation in a three-leg stool, right? Is organic innovation. Think about our supercomputers. Think about HPE GreenLake. Those are organic innovation. We came with the idea. We invested from our own balance sheet, and we had our engineers doing that. Huge success. The second is through acquisitions. Again, thinking about that talent and IP that turbocharges our strategy. And I have done now 35 acquisitions in the last 8 years. It doesn't matter if it's small, if it's big, they all take a lot of time and a lot of energy. But what it came clear to me, once you have a very strong cultural footprint, it's much easier to integrate. And the reality is that most of the companies we bought came with similar DNA. And our ability to retain has been very, very high. Very, very high, including founders. In fact, the founder of Aruba, Kirti Milkote, came in 2015 when I did the acquisition, and he left in 2021, 6 years later, mostly because he wanted to spend the time with the family. That's all what he did, right? So that's a good testament. And the third leg of the stool is through the partnership ecosystem. And that is, which are the unique partnerships that you want to curate and integrate into the experience of our products and scale it with them. And the other piece that we do is that we have a venture funding program called HPE Pathfinder that we invest small amount of dollars into their companies. We let them do what they do. We own whatever percentages based on whatever series of funding they are doing. And then if it makes sense down the road, we may acquire them. In fact, that was the case, for example, in a company last year called Upstramp, which does IT observability in a multi-cloud approach. So those are the type of things we think about it. But ultimately, I have to say, people come, they start learning, and they like the people and the mentality and the culture. And that's something that we take advantage of it.
Antonio.
Thank you. We appreciate you joining us.
Sure.
And thank you. And please give me a round of applause for Antonio Neri, everyone.